We're working in InDesign. Go away. That'll be our next thing that we do. To make a new document, of course, you go to File and New. Pay attention to how I have this set up. So let's work on the American tabloid. I may need y'all to call out the sizes of it. So the height of it.
10.25.
Oh, excuse me. The width of it is 10.25. You are correct. 10.25. And the height? 14.5. There we go. I do want to keep facing pages checked off. Why is it a good idea to keep facing pages turned on? What does facing pages do? Yeah, it puts them like if you were reading an actual newspaper side by side as you create new ones. So keep that one turned on. I don't want a primary text frame, so we'll keep that off. That one's okay. As far as the margins go, we'll keep it at 1/2 inch on all the side. Notice that you have the inside and outside. This is if you're reading a newspaper, the outside edge, and the inside is where your spine of your book is. Number of columns, it's going to be 5. And we're going to keep it at 0.68. Everything else will be exactly the same. We'll say OK to this. Most newspapers don't bleed all the way to the edge simply for production costs. And so this is what we have. This is our basic setup. Now we're going to do the baseline grid. I'm going to, first of all, if I zoomed in, you can't see the baseline grid. I'll zoom back out. To turn it on, you can go to View, down to your grids, and there's Show Baseline Grid. I still can't see it, but watch what happens when I zoom in. See it show up now? Since there's so many lines, if you zoom away, it just for the sake of convenience, it takes it away from there. Here's how we're going to set it up. If you ever need to make changes to this grid, you can go to InDesign Preferences, and here's our grid preferences. This at the top is our baseline grid preferences. The number of increments, so baselines are usually measured in points, so 12 points, 13, 14 points of type, and you'll see why it's done that way as well. For ours, we're going to keep it at 12, and it's going to be relative to either the top of the page or the margin. What I'm asking you to do is to do it relative to this top margin right here. That's where it's going to start counting. Does that make sense? Okay? Everything else we'll keep it the same. You can, I'm going to start at 0 inches from the top. So in other words, right there at the top from there. Everything else will keep the same. Say OK. So this is what it looks like. Notice that it's gone from the margin edge. It starts here, and if I scroll down, it'll stay within my margins as well. From here, we need to set up our paragraph styles. Okay, so to do paragraph styles, I need to open up that palette. I don't see it here, so under Window, Styles, there's our paragraph styles. The 3 most common styles that you're going to need is, of course, body copy. You're going to need headlines, or 2 different kinds of headlines, both serif and sans serif. Let's do body copy first. Grab you a text box. I'm just going to fill it in with some dummy text that I have right here. Right away, let me show you what the baseline grid allows you to do. Check out, and I know it's just random words. Oh, let's do something that doesn't give me the red lines. Type, fill with placeholder text. Now I got some nice Greeking text. What do you notice about the lines of the type and the baseline grid? They're off by a little bit. I'm going to highlight my text and go under my paragraph setting. I think it's under there. There it is. This little button's right here at the top. This one is by default will not align to the grid. The second one, this one here, will align to the grid. Watch what happens. Click. Now everything is nice and aligned. However, it is giving me kind of double-spaced text as well. Here's why. Let me turn it back off. What is my leading set to? 14 points. What was my baseline grid set to? 12 points. Okay. If it's over that number, well, it's going to increment. Let's turn it back on. So remember, here we are. So it's double spacing. It's at 14 points. If I was to set it at 12 point, hit return, now check out what happens. Pretty cool. Check out what happens if I try to nudge this down. I've just got it selected, and I'm hitting my down arrow. Do you see how it's jumping? No matter where I put it, it's going to align itself to that grid. Hey, if I've got multiple articles placed on here, no matter where I place them, they're always going to be nice and aligned. That's the upside to using that. Small details, but now you know what they look like. So let's start changing up our leading. If I increase it to 13, why did it do that?
Because it was more than...
It's more than the increment. Let's keep going. 14, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. What happens if 8, 24? What do you think is going to happen? Jump again? Nope, just after 24. So 25. Why did it do that? What's special about 24 and 25? It's double of 12. It's an increment of 12. So if you go above that increment, it's going to space it again. In other words, it's always going to keep your text relative to that baseline. Make sense? It takes a little bit of practice to get used to that, but it comes in handy a whole lot. I'm going to set this back to 12. Okay, I've got this. So as far as setting up our body copy, I want it to be Minion Pro, already got it. Want it to be what size? I'm looking at the top of the second chart. 11 point. My 12 point leading, I got it. Alignment is left justified. So this isn't just left with the ragged side. This is justified. So everything's nice and lined up good. First line indent. Remember that's this right here. 0.1, oops, 0.1875. And align to grid. That's where we go to the paragraph and we turn on align to grid right here. So this is how I want all of my body copy to look. Here's how to save that text. I've got it highlighted. In my paragraph styles, I'm going to make a new one. By default, it's going to call it paragraph style 1. I can double click on it. We're going to call this body copy. If you ever need to make changes, you can click on the sides here. For instance, there's my font, size, everything. As far as indents, there's the grids and spacing, my first line indent. All that's really good. So, hey, if somebody comes up to me and says, I need you to place an article in here, I can drop in some text. Let's see if I still had some saved. I may not have saved it. Dropped in my text. Uh-oh, it's not formatted correctly. One click of body copy, and it's automatically formatted exactly the way I need it to be. I don't have to do that anymore. Awesome, isn't it? Okay, let's do the same thing for some headlines. I'm just going to do the serifed headlines for now. Give yourself a new text box. Give yourself just a couple of letters to work with. We do want this one to be Minion Pro bold. These will be bold, not semi-bold. These will be what size? 20 points. And this is going to be a small one, so it's 24 point leading. And there it is. Got it formatted. Let's make a new one. Remember to give it a new name. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it small heading serif. Because I'm going to change this up. For my medium, what does it need to be? What size for medium? 30 point with a 36 point leading. Notice now it bumps it up a little bit. And I'm going to make a new one. It's new style. We'll call it medium. Heading serif. And last one is going to be my large one. Bump that all the way up to 50 point with a 48 point. There. Make a new one. Large. Heading serif. And say OK. Check out what I've got here. Large, medium, and small. I'll also do the same thing for large, medium, and small with a sans serif font that you get. Any questions on what I'm looking for those? Real simple. Thing is now, if I need to make a headline, all I've got to do, grab me a text box, type it out, click my formatting, and I've already got it there. The thing to remember for headlines is this isn't the set size. You can fudge the size of it. You can go a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. You can track it out a little more, track it in a little more. You always want your headlines to go directly to the edge of your margins, of your column margins, and so that's what you're looking for. Even when I delete these, they'll stay from there. You're going to do the same thing for each of the dummy pages that you set up. So you're going to make a dummy page for American, for British tabloids, then you're going to make them for Berliner and the broadsheets. Do you see down at the bottom which paragraph formats need to be saved with which one? So only the American and British tabloids are going to get that set of body copy headlines, serif and sans serif. Only that set of the Berliner and the broadsheets get that set of paragraph styles next to it.
There's like 2 and then 3 for each one, but do you want us to make 5 separate documents?
Correct. 5 separate documents. Exactly. So that'll let me show you how to save it now.
Because the size.
Each one's going to be different sizes. Very good. Now you're tracking with me. When you go to save it, go to File and where's my save? There it is. Save. Give it the name of whatever it is. So in this case, it's the American Tabloid. I'm just going to call it dummy, just so that I know what it is. Instead of saving it as an InDesign document, save it as an InDesign template. This way, whenever you open it up, it'll automatically give you that size and formatting. It'll save your paragraph styles, and you never have to set one up again. This is the only time you have to do it. Notice the file extension is INDT. And hit save from there. And if I did it on the desktop, I don't see it. Okay, wherever I saved it to, those are what you're going to upload. You're going to do 5 of them total, 1 for each one. What I'm looking for are your paragraph styles, and to make sure your baseline grids and margins and columns are set up as well. Hey, if I needed to change the columns, how can I change columns on a page? Oh, under paragraph? Where are you pointing to, Mary? I see. Layout. Under layout, margins and columns. Not all newspapers are exactly 5 columns. Some will go to 6 or 7. I've seen some go all the way up to 8. They get very special with that. 5 is just a general rule. But if you needed to change it, that's where you go up to change it. It's up there as well. So that's the first one. I'm going to pause recording.